How's it going? Good. Anyway, so I'm gonna clear up some things from the last video. When I went to the doctors, that was like, and I tried to like get sober and all that. That was in like 2004. When my daughter was born, she was born in 2005. Timeline, the way I was telling stuff was a little jacked up. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that's where we'll start, man. And before we start, I just want to say, like, you know, all these comments and stuff I've been getting from, like, the new subscribers, people who aren't even subscribed. Like, that's kind of the whole point, you know, like, telling my story and telling what happened to me. Like, the whole point of it is, like, maybe somebody will see it and they'll see that in themselves. Like, holy shit, I'm going that way. Like, holy shit, I could end up like this. I better nip this thing in the bud and quit doing what I'm doing, or I'm gonna end up like that guy. Or maybe they're going through, like, trying to get sober, you know, like when we get to that point of the story, like to where when I finally do get sober and like the feelings of shit, you know, maybe they'll see, like, okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Or maybe somebody who has a family member that's going through this, you know, a family member that's caught in addiction, maybe they'll see it and, you know, see it through their eyes and be like, holy shit, you know. Because I know a lot of people, they think like, oh, you care about the drugs more than you care about your kids, or you care about the drugs more than you care about your life or your family, and that's not true at all. But that's hard to explain when everything you do is for the drugs. When you're leaving your kids, like, at home so you could go run around and, you know, collect money from people to go buy pills or whatever you're going to get, to go back and give it to the people so you can make a free one, or make a couple dollars to buy, you know, because you don't have enough money. Like, I'm $50 short of what I need for the day. So, you know, you go and make some money off of each person, and, you know, like, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, you chose drugs over this. It's not like that. It's really not. So, where do we end off at? We ended off where I was being a fuck, and Bird was born October 2005-ish. Yeah, okay. Well, so we'll fast forward to like 2006, you know. After a couple years of like me starting to sell the shit and then get caught up in it, well, then I couldn't sell the shit anymore, right? Because dude's like, damn, man, you owe me money. And I was like, no, my bad. I don't have it all. So he's like, well, I can't give you the next batch until you pay me this money. And then it's like, fuck. So now I'm like scrambling, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I'm not really selling it, but I'm like, I am selling it because, like I said, people would call like, hey, man, I need two. Like, all right, like, yeah, my buddy's here. He needs two, too. Like, oh, sweet. Well, I'll go collect their money, go to somebody that has it, that gives me a good deal on so many. Get them, go drop this shit off, and make myself something. You know what I mean? But after so long of, like, taking money from this bill and that bill, like, shit started adding up. And I couldn't, like, keep moving shit around and taking money. You know, oh, I'll pay this bill this month, but not this bill or this bill, because I'm going to use that money to buy this, to try and flip it. Like, you know, like the story I told about my van getting repossessed. Like, that shit was in everything I did, you know? So, one day I'm at work, you know, and there was like this, I don't know what it was like a storage barn that they had built, right? And I'm in there, and there's like this big tub of these rods, and what they were used for is you put them in this thing, and they would stick straight out like this. And when the stuffer, the thing that makes the smokies, it like twists the casing, comes out, you know, they come out like whatever length you tell it to and whatnot. You would wrap them on the rods, and then spread them out and put them on a truck to put in the oven to cook. Well, way back in the day when I first started working there, when it was real small, we were using these aluminum rods. And the USDA comes in there every day. There's an inspector that goes there every day, twice a day sometimes, maybe even 3 times a day, depending on how late we're staying open. Like the USDA, they have their own office inside them. Any meat processing plant or food processing plant, they have their own office. Well, anyway, one day the USDA guy comes in and he's like, you can't use those rods anymore. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, the soap and the chemicals that you use to clean them are starting to pit them. Like, you could see, like, the metal wasn't smooth anymore, right? And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, those little pits, those little tiny holes, bacteria will grow in there. Even though you've cleaned them, they'll hide in there and grow. So you can't use aluminum once it starts doing this. So you can't use any of these rods anymore. And I was like, starting when? He's like, it's ASAP. So, okay. So I went and told the owner. Al went out and he bought, a bunch of stainless steel rods, enough to get us through what we had to do every day, Those aluminum ones got shoved off into a corner and forgot about. Then this company called 5 Star Beef Snacks, they made like hot dogs and shit and bologna and stuff, but 5 Star Meats, they went out of business. I want to say they were in like Cleveland or something. Well, in an auction, he bought a bunch of equipment from 5 Star going out of business. Shitload. And some of it was like a bunch of rods, stainless steel rods. This is probably like in 2003, 2004. So here it is, 2006. I'm struggling to hide my addiction from people still. Like, because I tried to say I was sober, even though I wasn't. And I'm sure most people knew that I wasn't. And I'm moving money around, and I'm trying to figure shit out. And at the same time, I'm at work, and I see them in the back, and I'm like, huh. And they're, about 3 foot long or so. I was like, I wonder what I could get for these if I took them to like a scrapyard, So I take them, I pick them up, I throw them in the back of this dude's car that was driving me, because I think I lost my license for some reason. I forget. I don't know. Shit was so fucked up back then. I didn't know what day it was half the time. Things were not good. And my girl was pregnant with our second kid together, my son. And I was like, oh man. So I take them into the place, and there was a lot of them. They were all aluminum. I got a few $100. I was like, damn. So I gave dude some money that, gave me a ride, took me there, and it was a little hush money too, like, keep your fucking mouth shut, right? And I knew, I was like, this shit's never gonna be. It's been sitting back there for 5 years, 6 years. They've been sitting back here in a corner. Nobody's gonna miss them. So I left it at that. Like, all right, cool. Didn't think about it again. And then phone calls start coming in about my van, and then ended up getting repossessed in the end. I was like, shit, man. I'm getting shut off notices for bills. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Right? Like, nobody's gonna believe, like, whatever I say, because I was making decent money. I was like, huh. And I remember, like, oh, fuck me, we got all these stainless steel rods. Wonder I could get for them. So I took just a couple handfuls, They were in the storage unit. Nobody ever went in there. Nobody ever cared. I was, like, the only one that ever went in there. So I take, a couple armloads, and I take it in. And they're worth, like, twice what the aluminum ones were worth. And I was like, holy shit. And that started like a whole can of worms. And my position in the company, I knew what every single person was doing, where they would be at all times of the day, even when I wasn't there. So I would coordinate, like, on, like, a Saturday morning, knowing nobody was going to be there, let myself into this place, load up the back of a car, and go get $500-$600, pay a bill, go get what I needed to be straight for a couple days, and it was like, oh, sweet, you know? In my mind, I wasn't doing I was like, oh, I'm not hurting nobody. I'm not stealing from nobody. And at this time, I would even do other dumb shit like, or no, that came later. But even later on down the road, I don't know, man, I do some dumb shit. But I didn't feel like I was like, oh, I'm not really robbing from anybody. Nobody uses these things. They just sit in storage, right? And then one day I went to go get some after like a month or two of doing this. And it's probably getting close to November or so. Maybe it was after. I know it was wintertime. It was after November. And there was like almost none left. I was like, holy fuck. I like took them all. Right? So now I was like, well, nobody likes to use these ones, like these real tiny, skinny ones, from the inside. So I started taking some of those. Then we had these like 250-pound big stainless steel tubs. Like these things were so big, I could sit down inside of them, and it was like above my head. Like if I was sitting down, my legs straight out in front of me. They were huge. Somehow I snapped 3 of those off. Like, I'm telling you, I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. But fuck, man, there's another $700 or so. Like, cool, I can pay some bills. I can go get high. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna miss them because there's 200 more. And then one day, we got caught. Alright? So it was me, the guy that was giving me rides to work. His car had been broken down, so one of his buddies gave us a ride to work and come back to pick us up. And we had put some shit in his trunk, and somebody thought they seen it. So they asked him, they're like, hey, can you pull up here? And they looked in his trunk and found him. Well, when I got the phone call later that night, like, hey, from the owner, I was like, dude, why would I do that? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I was just trying to talk my way out of trouble. But when they went and looked at the cameras, they seen me pushing this bin of them back towards the back where they shouldn't have been. And it wasn't even me they saw. They saw my arm, right? Tattoos are a good giveaway. So that was it. Like, obviously I'm fired, right? Because I just got caught basically stealing shit that nobody really cared about, but still I was stealing shit. And I've never been the person to be like, I'm gonna weasel my way out of this. I'm gonna do this, whatever. So when the detectives called and they said, hey, we want to talk to you about what happened, I said, all right, where you want me to go? I'll meet you there. I didn't ask for an attorney. I didn't ask for shit, right? I knew what I did, and I knew what I did was wrong. And I was so fucked up. Fuck it. So I went and sat down. I talked to the detectives. I laid everything out, you know, and I'm like, so what's going to happen? And they said, well, we're probably going to charge you with a felony for theft. You and your 2 co-conspirators or whatever they call them. And I was like, no. I was like, listen, man. I was like, that dude, I didn't even remember his name. I was like, that guy had nothing to do with this. I was like, because what they had done is once they found out what I was doing, and he asked for it, the owner asked, he said, well, where was you taking my shit? I said I was taking it to this metal place in Elyria. I told him the name of it, told him exactly where it was. Well, he went there, and then they pulled up my name, and they're like, oh, yeah, you know, he was bringing his ID, this day, this day, this day, this day, this is how much he had, this is how much he had, like in poundage. Like, they pulled up all the records, and they're like, oh, okay. Even though not every time I used my name. But still, it was, like, enough to where it was, like, a felony 4. And I was like, fuck me. So I tell them everything. I was like, am I under arrest? They're like, no. This will go to the grand jury and then indict me, and we'll let you know. I was like, okay. Well, while I'm waiting for that to happen, I gotta get a different job, you know? And I'm working at that job, still fucking off. Everybody's mad at me. My family's mad at me. How could you do that? He was so good to you, which is true. Like, how could I do that? Right? Like, but at the time, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking like, oh shit, I'm not hurting nobody and I'm gonna get right. So, and then the cops pulled me in. They talked to me about some other bullshit that had nothing to do with me. I don't know. There was just all kinds of craziness going on at the time. So I was like, nope, not talking to you about that. But you want to talk to me about this? We'll talk about this, you know? So here it is. It's like February. My son was born the end of January in 2007. Right after the first of the year. And they call, the detectives call, they say, yeah, we got a warrant for your arrest. They said, we could come find you or you could turn yourself in. I said, well, when I turn myself in, when will I go to court? How will I get out? How does this work? They said, well, come in on Monday. You'll go to court Tuesday morning. You'll be out. You'll probably get an OR bond because you've, cooperated and everything. And I said, okay. I said, yeah, I'm not running from this thing. I'm not going to do that. They said, okay. So I go in on Monday. It's the first time my son's left the house since he was born. So it was like, middle of February. So I go in. They're booking me in the booking room. Like, I asked for the detective. She took me back to the jail. They're booking me in the booking room. And they say, oh, you got Judge Collier. He has court on Monday. And I was like, well, today's Monday. They're like, yeah, you're just going to have to wait till Monday. And I was like, well, let me leave. They're like, what? I was like, I'll come back on Sunday. Like, I'm not running. Like, let me go. Like, I'll leave. They're like, no, we can't. They're like, now that you're here, you have to stay. I was like, son of a bitch, man. So I had to sit in jail for a week, which really, Medina County Jail is not bad. I've been in some pretty bad jails. That one's not bad. And I sat there for a week. Sucked ass. And I went to court. They gave me a lawyer, put me on an OR bond, and then said, okay, we're going to start doing your PSI, which is pre-sentence investigation. You got to go see this PO, blah, 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 right? And then we'll set you a court date. So I get a lawyer, do the PSI, they set me a court date, and this whole time I'm still doing whatever I got to do to get high. I'm still running, wake up and get a plan, oh, okay, so I'm gonna get up. I have this piece to keep me right. I'm start making phone calls. Who needs something? Who wants something? Who's got something? I'm running all over God's green acre, making shit, right? Plus, I'm working now. I was scrapping drywall, so I'm doing that job. I got my own crew together. Things are going. I'm trying to do what I gotta do. And waiting on my court date. And yeah, so this is what happened in court. So I'll tell what happened in court, and then we'll do the next section. So anyway, so I talked to my lawyer, I talked to the prosecutor, I talked to the probation officer that did my PSI. Talked to all these people, and they say, look, we're going to recommend that you get probation. And I'm like, okay. They're like, you've been cooperative, you're not lying. Like, you're going to need to get sober because you're going to be on probation. And if you fail a drug test, you're going to go to jail because you're going to have time hanging over your head. And I'm like, yeah, I know how it works. They're like, okay, this is what you're going to do. They're like, so you'll come in, you'll go to court, they'll probably let you out on probation. I'm like, sweet. So I send my crew to the job. I drive my car to the courthouse. I'm dressed nice, got my work clothes in the car. My plan is to go into court, have all this stuff happen, leave and go to work. You know what I mean? See how things go from there. I go to court, I sit down, I'm talking to the judge. The judge is reading all the stuff off. So how do you plead? I said, well, my lawyer says I should plead guilty because I'm guilty. The judge says, okay, we accept your plea of guilty. The prosecutor gets up and says, yeah, we recommend, 5 years ISP, which is intense supervised probation, starting today. And he says, okay. He talks to the other lady. She says pretty much the same thing. He say he's a good candidate for it. And he says, all right. And he looks down and he says, I hear your guys' recommendations. And he says, but this is what I'm going to do. 60 days in county. Then once you get out of your 60 days, you'll be on 5 years ISP. I'll give you 7 days for time served. So that means I'm going to serve 53 days in county. And I was like, starting when? And right as I was finishing that, the bailiff is like standing me up. I'm like, okay, so when does it start? He's like, right now, put your hands behind your back. I was like, are you shitting me, man? I was like, my car's outside. I got a crew at work. Like, I got responsibilities. I can't just go to jail. Like, can I get like a week to get my affairs in order? And he was like, no, you go now. I was like, holy shit. He's like, they'll let you make a phone call when you get to the jail and somebody can come pick up your car. I was like, wow. And that was it. Off I was. No, out on probation, going to work, continuing the shit I was doing. And then when you go in and they book you in, they ask you, like, are you going to withdraw off of drugs? Of course I lied. I was like, nah, I'll probably be all right. Wait, do you sleep for 3 days? And before I go, I'll tell you what. There's a couple of things jail will break you of, right? You will get comfortable taking showers in colder water. Not so hot. The water will get hot, but it takes a minute. You gotta push this little button and the water only goes for so long. So you gotta time it to keep hitting the button. And it's just that one temperature and the water eventually get hot, right? 2, shitting in front of people. It'll break you of that. Because either you're shitting in the cell and all you have is like a plastic chair in front of you for a little bit of privacy. Or like you're shitting in the day room, and even then you can watch the TV and look right here and there's people playing fucking cards, right? And it'll make you really good at Texas Hold'em and spades. I'll tell you what, it'll make you really good at that shit. So, and you'll learn how to make food, almost anything out of ramen noodles, a microwave, and some candy bars. So, with all that, I guess I'll see you in the next one. I mean, that was the fall, but even then, until I'm finally sober. So, yeah. All right, man. Again, thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks to all the old subscribers. If you know somebody that could benefit from this, go ahead and share it. Whether or not they subscribe, I'm not in this to make $1 million. I've said from day one when I started this channel a couple years ago, I spent a lot of time by myself in this car, and it's kind of like a mental therapy to me. Then when I decided to do this string of videos, it was to help people. Like maybe my story could help somebody. So, thanks to all you guys. If you know somebody that could benefit, go ahead and share it, and there'll be more videos to come in. So, all right, later.